Hi, everyone. We have, last I checked about 2 hours ago, we have 103 people registered for this virtual forum. So if everyone would take to the chat and share your name, affiliation, and let us know where you are calling in from. So this is Lori Peak at the University of Colorado Boulder, and I'm calling in from Boulder, Colorado. And welcome to all of you wherever you're joining from. Hi, Cody in Norman, Oklahoma. Thanks for being here. I'm going to call on you about midway through. Oh, good to see you, Thalia. Welcome. Thanks, everyone. And we have a great representation of a range of researchers from academic institutions, federal, state, and local agencies, private sector. We also have several practicing meteorologists and others who are joining with us today. So again, wherever you are jumping on this call from, you are definitely welcome here. And we are so thankful that you signed up for this virtual forum. My name is Lori Peak, and I'm a professor of sociology and also the director of the Natural Hazard Center here at the University of Colorado Boulder. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to this most recent virtual forum focused on the 2024 tornadoes. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Okay. And Justin, I'll call on you because I can see you in my Zoom box. Is that in full screen mode and looking good by thumbs up? All right.
It is, yeah.
Thank you so much. And so again, welcome to this virtual forum. I just want to say a few words about the Social Science Extreme Events Network to begin. So SSEER is a National Science Foundation supported global network of social scientists who study hazards and disasters. And so SSEER's mission is to identify researchers to develop the social science workforce. And we do that through several means, including hosting a survey that social scientists can sign up for. And then we also host a map, an interactive map that shows researchers by their geographic location and highlights their methodological and disciplinary expertise. We also issue annual census reports, publications, and other information on the status of the social science hazards and disaster research workforce. In addition, the mission of SSEER is to coordinate social science research teams in large-scale disasters to advance scholarship on the root causes and human consequences of extreme events. And SSEER was launched in 2018 with the support of the National Science Foundation, and to date, 1,699 social scientists have joined the network. And so if you're a social scientist out there who studies hazards and disasters and you have not yet joined, you may be number 1,700. We hope you will sign up, and you can scan the QR code if you're able to see the screen on your computer, or you can go to the converge.colorado.edu website and find information on filling out that brief survey to join the network. Now, a few words about the purpose of this virtual forum series that we host through Converge and the SSEER network. And so the purpose of this series is really fourfold. First and foremost, we are working to encourage communication, coordination, and collaboration among the research community and in partnership with practitioners, locally affected people, and others who are on the ground in disaster-affected areas. Second, these virtual forums are really designed to leave time and space for resource sharing, information sharing. Third, one of our goals in terms of advancing communication, coordination, and collaboration is to learn about already launched research as well as planned research to find out what are the new studies that are being initiated or again being planned to try to encourage that communication, coordination, and collaboration. And then fourth, another goal of this series is to help establish research priorities in the aftermath of disaster. And so these research priorities may be shaped by a variety of forces, including open and pressing research questions that need to be answered, ethical and cultural considerations that are emerging, and also research access protocols that researchers and teams may need to be aware of. And so we'll be touching on each of these points during this forum today. And the purpose of this specific forum, what we will be focusing on, is really related to the 2024 tornado season in particular. And so according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, about 1,200 tornadoes touch down in the United States each year. And for those who have been following what's been happening this year, according to preliminary data from NOAA's Storm Prediction Center, during the month of May 2024, there were some 570 preliminary tornado reports. And this is more than double than what has been observed between 1991 and 2020, where the average was about 268 tornadoes during this month of May. So during this past month of May 2024, this was the highest number of tornadoes ever recorded in the US. And in addition, this year during April and May in particular have been particularly violent tornado activity in terms of damage, destruction, and also the dozens of deaths that have been recorded across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Tennessee, Arkansas, and other states throughout the southern, central, and eastern US. And so today, what we're going to seek to accomplish during this 1-hour virtual forum is the following. So first, I'm going to share some information about the Weather Ready Research Award Program, and in particular, focus on reviewing the currently active Tornado Ready call for proposals. And I want to note that Jennifer Tobin here at the Natural Hazard Center led a really great Q&A session back in April, where she also reviewed this call for proposals. Or back in March, excuse me, and it was sort of prior to the intense storm activity that we've seen in April and May. And so we decided to hold a broader virtual forum to, again, re-review this call for proposals, but also to bring the research and practice community together to learn more about planned research. So we're going to talk about this call for proposals and funding that is available with the support of NOAA and the National Science Foundation. That'll be about the first 20 to 25 minutes of the forum. And then the remaining time is predominantly going to be dedicated to hearing from social scientists, meteorologists, and others who are either planning to conduct or eager to support social science-led and tornado-focused research. And so Nate McGinnis, I'm giving you a heads up that you are going to be the first person I call on when we transition to the second part of the forum. And then finally, with any available remaining time, we'll briefly review some available resources that we have available through Converge and the Natural Hazard Center, and also hear from those of you on the call who may have resources that you're seeking to share with the community. And so to begin, a few words about the Weather Ready Research Award Program, which was established in 2019 and made possible with the support of NOAA, and in particular, NOAA's Weather Program Office, the WPO, the National Weather Service, the National Severe Storms Laboratory, and also the National Science Foundation. And we are grateful for this support. And to date, through the Natural Hazard Center, with the funding support of NOAA and the NSF, we have actually issued 6 calls through this Weather Ready Research Award Program, focused on building a weather ready research community, encouraging weather-focused instrument and data publication. We had a 3rd call that was focused on tornado-ready quick response research, a call focused on wildfire-ready research, and an inland flood call that recently closed. And so we have a 6th call that is currently active that, again, we will be talking about today, that is focused on tornado-ready research and also data publication. And more information on those past calls, as well as reports that have been published to date, are available on the Hazard Center website at hazards.colorado.edu. And I just wanted to note that this support from NOAA and the National Science Foundation has resulted in funding well over 200 researchers across the United States, and funding has been distributed to dozens of teams who have initiated new research, as well as who have published their data and research instruments focused on these different natural hazards that you can that I've reviewed as shown on the screen. And so I'm going to talk now specifically about our tornado-ready research and data publication call that is currently active. And so to begin with this, I just want to give a high-level overview of what this call is focused on. And so there are really, as you're going to hear in a moment, there are 3 different tracks that researchers can pursue with this call. 2 of them are focused on funding initiating novel tornado-focused research that is social science-led. And there's also a 3rd track that I will review that is about encouraging the publication of already existing tornado-focused data sets and or research instruments. And so if you are joining this call and you have a survey, a focus group guide, an interview guide, a data set that you might be interested in publishing, this call is for you. If you are on this call and you're thinking about initiating a new study, this call is also for you. In terms of focus, in partnership with the wonderful scientists at NOAA, who we've been working with for several years, we decided that this call not only is focusing on the tornado hazard, but we are particularly interested and will be prioritizing proposals that focus on places that either house or serve socially marginalized populations. And so here we're talking about settings such as schools, nursing homes, correctional facilities, or manufactured homes, for example. And we'll say more about that in a moment. And so now I'm going to review those 3 tracks that I briefly mentioned to give you a sense of what each of the 3 tracks would consist of, depending on which one you might be interested in applying for. And so track 1 provides funding for researchers for up to $15,000. And this track will support research on activities that take place before a tornado occurs. And so here we're interested in efforts related to, for example, tornado forecasting, people's risk perception, institutional decision-making, again, in the context in particular of settings that serve or house socially marginalized populations, preparedness and or mitigation activities. So again, track 1 is for those of you out there who are interested in this before event timeframe. Track 2 also provides funds up to $15,000 for researchers and or research teams. And this track will support research that focuses on a specific tornado or event. And so in the context of a specific event or perhaps multiple events that occurred in close succession, we might want to support research, for example, that looks at how forecasts and warnings were received and understood, how sheltering or evacuation behavior took place, looking at tornado impacts, displacement, rebuilding, and or recovery processes. And important for this track to note is that for those of you who are interested in a more recent and specific tornado event, we are going to fund proposals that have focused on an event that has occurred on or after January 1st, 2023. Now, the 3rd track that we are accepting proposals for is to support tornado research instrument and data publication on DesignSafe, which is the NSF-funded cyber infrastructure for data management. And we do have trainings that are available, as well as check sheets and other materials to help walk you through the process if you are new to data publication or instrument publication. And we also have dozens of examples on our Converge website, as well as on our natural hazards website, of projects that we have already funded and researchers that we've been able to support through these training activities who have already published data and instruments and received a permanent digital object identifier for their instrument and data publication. And this is so important in terms of future discoverability of the research instruments and data sets that I know many of you on this call have put so much time and effort into curating, collecting, composing. And so we really want to support those of you who are out there and are doing this work. And just as it's always important to note deadlines and to write them down in ink on our calendars, the proposal deadline for all three of these calls is 5 p.m. Mountain Time on Friday, August 9th, 2024. And so I'm going to say a few more words about the logistics of how this special call is going to work in terms of, the nuts and bolts and the requirements and so forth. But I actually want to pause for a minute and both acknowledge the team here at the Natural Hazard Center, and especially Jennifer Tobin, who administers this research award program and all of our federally funded research award programs at the Natural Hazard Center, as well as our research associates, graduate students, and full-time staff here at the center who have helped to conceptualize this call, as well as all the calls as part of the Weather Ready program. I also want to acknowledge the talented scientists, program administrators, and leaders at the NSF and at NOAA who have helped build this Weather Ready research program from the ground up. And the folks that you see on this screen, if you are looking at your screen and able to see it, those images of those 12 people, they really helped us to envision and conceptualize this tornado ready call. And so I want to pause for a minute. I know that Justin and Danielle, Kenzie, Cody from NOAA are all on the call, and a few that I may have missed. To our NOAA partners out there, is there anything that you would like to share with those of us on this virtual forum about sort of what has motivated this call and what NOAA might ultimately, when we think about the end state with the research and the data and the instruments that are being published, about sort of the end state that NOAA is hoping to see with your investment in this program? And so Cody or Kenzie or Justin or others who are on this call, is there anything you'd like to come off mute and share with our colleagues on the call?
Yeah, thank you, Lori, for your leadership in this space. I think one thing that's really important here is emphasizing that we're really interested in understanding some of these underserved populations. And so, oftentimes when we're studying tornadoes, only a few of them are studied, and it's often the really big events. But just as important, I think, is to study some of these smaller events, for lack of a better term. But there really is value in understanding all different types of tornadoes, as well as these more underserved populations. So we really thank you for your leadership in developing the call in this space.
Thank you, Kenzie. And that's absolutely right. Of those 1,000+ events recorded each year, we know that only a fraction are studied by the social science community in particular, and then a fraction more that are really focused on underserved or socially marginalized populations. So very well said, and thank you.
Lori, I'll come off mute
yes.
for a second.
Sorry,
I can't figure out how to raise my hand. But thank you, Lori, for hosting this, and it's so great to see such a large amount of people on the call. So I'm coming at this from the National Weather Service perspective. I'm a social scientist here, in particular in our kind of operations and policy arm. So I'm particularly interested in learning, like Kenzie was saying, how we can support these communities within our operations from a weather service side of things. We're really working toward service equity as a overarching agency goal. We are also considering, what the future of alerting is. So as we have new technologies available to us, as we understand more about our user base, how can we design our warnings, our forecasts, our decision support to be more tailored to various audiences, support them more fully. So really learning about some of these specific populations that we might not have a lot of information on when it comes to the full range of their decision needs and how they process information and their barriers. Learning more about that will really help us kind of just in our path forward in these areas. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle, very much. So thank you again to colleagues at NOAA and the National Science Foundation for the support. And now just a few words for those of you, if you're thinking about applying, it would be great, since many members of the Natural Hazard Center team are on here too. Maybe if you would jump in the chat box for a second, if you are at all considering applying for this call and for the funds that are available, we would love to see you jump in the chat and just put in the words considering applying, so we can get a sense who's out there on the call today, and if you are thinking about applying for these funds, because we always want to be prepared accordingly. And so again, please visit our, I can't read the chat right now, but I see at least 2 coming in, so thank you. So to the proposal submission guidelines, they are clearly and carefully outlined on the hazards.colorado.edu website, and I hope you will visit that under the Weather Ready Research tab. And in particular for track 1 and 2 proposals, what we want to emphasize is there is an online form with particular fields that you will need to complete on the Natural Hazard Center website. And then we also have a provided template for the written research proposal to try to guide researchers and to help support and assist. And want to give a special shout out to Megan Wardy here at the center, who helped to develop this template and all of our templates for our research award program. So we have a template to guide you through the 5-page single space proposal that you would be required to submit if you are thinking about pursuing a track 1 or 2 proposal for, again, up to $15,000. And it's important to follow all of the specifications detailed on the submission page. And then if you are thinking about a track 3 proposal, which is focused on data and instrument publication, which again, at the $1,250 level, that's if you're only going to publish an instrument. The $2,500 level is if you're going to publish a data set and the instrument that inform the collection of your social science data. That is only an online form, and it's less funds and it's a shorter application. And so that's an online form that is on the Hazard Center website as well. And again, just remembering that the due date for the proposals is Friday, August 9th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And that if you have any questions, we hope you will reach out to us at the Natural Hazard Center at our has.research awards, has research awards at colorado.edu email address. And so just again, wanting to emphasize the focus areas that we're going to prioritize are going to be focused on those settings that serve or house socially marginalized populations. And we also on our website have a series of example research questions. These are not in any way meant to limit your research creativity and expression of knowledge, but instead to give some additional guidance in terms of the questions that we are interested in pursuing and developing a broader knowledge base around. And so some other key considerations for funding that are really important that we've seen time and time again through the review of proposals is that number 1, it is very important to have a clear time frame for these proposals, because you have a set amount of time, as I'm going to show on the next screen, from award to issuance of your final product deliverable. So it's really important that your plans for, if you're in a track 1 or track 2 proposal, your plans for data collection, analysis, publication, and report writing are both feasible and included in a clear timeline as part of your proposal. Also, it's important to note some administrative details that, in terms of the award funding process, that researchers may need to begin collecting data prior to funding being issued. Also, that IRB approval for those who are engaging in human subjects research must be submitted before data collection can begin, and we will need to receive an IRB certificate or a certificate of exemption. It's also important to note that the lead investigator, as designated in the proposal, must be from an academic institution based in a U.S. state, U.S. territory, or a tribal nation. Additional collaborators can be from outside of the U.S. or outside of an academic institution, but the lead must meet this third bulleted criteria. Award funding can be distributed to up to 3 people, including the lead investigator, co-leads, project assistants, or other local collaborators, for example. And please note that payment will be sent directly to award recipients, not to the university. And also, awardees are solely responsible for all tax reporting and ramifications, and CU Boulder will report payments to taxing jurisdictions. And so, in terms of project deliverables, and again, thinking about that clear timeline, for those who are track 1 or track 2 awardee, the primary deliverable as part of that novel research that you would be launching is a 20-page double-spaced report summarizing your research findings that is due by no later than February 23rd, 2025. And so again, think about that sort of 6-month time frame between proposal submission and report submission, and what is feasible and what's doable during your time frame as you're writing your proposal. Also, prior to submission, make sure you download the report template and closely follow submission guidelines. And then for the track 3 awardees, this is again, the requirement is that you publish a data set and or a research instrument on Design Safe, and you will be required to submit a data publication checklist and a publication template by no later than November 23rd, 2024. And again, we have resources and materials to guide you through there. And so I'm going to pause on this part of the forum before we transition to the open discussion period. And I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, so I'm not looking at a PowerPoint and I'm looking at you. And so if anyone out there has any questions about the special tornado call that you would like to pose right now, Jen is on here from the Natural Hazard Center. We have lots of our partners from NOAA who are on here. You can either raise your hand or flip on your camera and come off mute if you have any questions about any of that special call information that I just shared that you'd like to address right now. And I see that Kelsey Ellis put in she's considering applying, and she just turned her camera on. And so Kelsey, do you have any questions or anything you want to ask about the special call?
I don't. I just wanted to give you another face to look at. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Kenzie, Afiz, and Jen, thanks for giving a few faces to see instead of the boxes with all the lovely names. And again, information is very clearly outlined on the Natural Hazard Center website. Jen is incredibly responsive to email. And so if you do have questions about the special call, or even want to run a 1-paragraph, this is what I'm thinking about doing, and run that by us, Jen and I are always in communication about that. If we can't answer, we reach out to the NOAA team. And so please do feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas. And Adam Coons, great to see you. Do you have a question about the call 6?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So, as a disaster anthropologist, but working for FEMA, I'm speaking absolutely unofficially. So totally, completely unofficially, this is for the recording. Those of you who are in the process of doing research or writing up research or applying for this, please think about your audience. In my agency and other government agencies, a lot of times things that are written too academically get dismissed as it's just scientists or social scientists talking to each other, or they're just trying to get something published, being very candid here. But we are looking for things that emergency responders, emergency policymakers can utilize, can translate in their heads or on paper into analysis, conclusions, program objectives, project planning, implementation steps, because we take it to that last mile of, well, you know what FEMA does. So again, very unofficially, but one of the things that I've been trying to do in my position, I work for the disability office, but one of the things I've been trying to do is take the academic research being done by all of you and a number of my other colleagues and translate it into something that might be understandable, usable, acceptable, responded to from my internal colleagues at FEMA. That's not my official job, but I consider that as kind of an adjunct to my job as being the bridge. So I just ask you to think about your audience and think about what your audience is trying to do with the information that you so wonderfully collect.
Adam, thank you so much for that beautiful articulation and music to the ears of the incredible editors here at the Natural Hazard Center who have developed the template for the research report series, and everything you just said was absolutely beautiful and really is rooted in the research and applications mission of the center, the partnership with NOAA for this particular program and so forth. And I wonder, Adam, because I know there are several people on this call who have an interest in disability, and also it's always great to meet a social scientist working at a federal agency with unofficially not representing it, but having great words to share. Would you be willing to drop your email in the chat in case anybody wants to follow up with you directly?
Yes, I will. I'll go out on a limb here and I'll drop both my government email and my personal email, and then people can decide which one they're comfortable contacting. Sure,
Wonderful.
I'll do that. And now I'm going to turn off the camera and I'm going to be quiet.
Thank you, Adam. And I think you put a great exclamation point on the wonderful words that Kenzie and Danielle from NOAA shared earlier too about, again, the importance of that practical application of the research. So thank you again, and it's great to see you. And so what I'm going to do now, seeing no further hands or questions, although I see the wonderful Bolanle Coyote from Nigeria has put in the chat that he is interested in collaborating. So thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen again just for a moment because we're going to transition to the next part of the virtual forum and what I think is really the hallmark of this virtual forum series, which is now it's going to be time to share and engage in open discussion. And in particular, today we're going to hear from, and we're actually going to hear from two NOAA professionals to launch this discussion. So we are really interested in hearing from those of you out there, and we just heard from Adam, those who want to support and or partner with social science researchers, encourage, share information, share insights, as we just heard from Adam. So that was really a beautiful transition to where we're going. So those who are out there who really want to support or partner with social science researchers, share observations from on the ground. We're also really interested if there are those of you who are out there who have already launched research studies in the context of the 2023 or 2024 tornado season that you want to share about what you're doing with others for situational awareness. Similarly, if you are planning research and maybe looking for either practitioner or social science research partners, and then if there are other ethical, cultural, or logistical considerations. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just share a brief story and then turn this microphone over to Nate McGinnis. About a month ago, I received an email from Ji-Sun Lee, who is a wonderful social scientist at NOAA, and she had heard from two colleagues in the weather office, Seth Bynow and Nate McGinnis, and Nate in particular, who'd been out in the field and had observed a variety of things and very interested in pursuing the possibility of partnering with social scientists to follow up on some of the big issues, challenges, and concerns that were observed in the field. So I had a wonderful call with Seth and Nate and Ji-Sun about this, and we decided to flip this virtual forum on its head a little bit. And so we're going to hear from Nate first, and then Jonathan Guzman, both from NOAA, to hear a little bit about some of their observations on the ground, what they're seeing, maybe what they'd even hope for in terms of future social science research. And then again, we'll turn the microphone and camera over to anyone else on the call, social scientists who are thinking about studies. So Nate, would you take it from here and take a couple of minutes and share what you want to share? And welcome. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Lori. She's here today, so I guess we can blame Dr. Kelsey Ellis for all of this situation, because she's the one that recommended this particular research opportunities at the Southern Appalachians Weather and Climate Workshop that we happened to run into each other with at the end of April. So we can blame her, but let's get into it. So yeah, obviously I'm a National Weather Service employee within NOAA. And one of the interesting things about what I do is that I'm the person that's behind the screen, issuing the warnings, out in the field, doing the damage surveys. And a lot of times that's where it kind of ends. We move on to the next event. And this falls right into that, because this particular tornado that we're interested in digging deeper into occurred on March 14th. And we had tornadoes before that on February 28th. We had tornadoes after that on April 2nd and May 7th. I mean, it was just a very busy spring. I think we're up to 41 tornadoes just in our area of responsibility here in Southeast Indiana, Southwest Ohio, and Northern Kentucky. So amongst all of that busy operational work, it's really hard for us to take a moment and slow down and dig deeper into this. So we really do need that partnership with social scientists out there that are interested in working with us, using our expertise from the operational side of things and partnering together in doing that. So really the second part of this is why this tornado. Yes, it does happen to be the strongest tornado that did impact our area this spring, but it's more the uniqueness of where it hit and the communities that it impacted. Because if you look up just general risk vulnerability, socioeconomic status, vulnerability from the likes of NCEI, West Central Ohio is not going to pop out at you and say, this area is very high risk. But sometimes when you look at these broader maps, you lose the granularity of the actual issues that you may have at these smaller communities, which again, I think kind of points to that risk vulnerability. And so, yeah, this tornado was about 32 miles long, and it impacted communities southeast of Wapakoneta all the way to Indian Lake. It impacted several communities along Indian Lake. And I think that's why this event is so interesting to me, and why I feel like it's a huge opportunity to dig into this sort of risk assessment and vulnerable communities, because it hit several campgrounds. It was on a Thursday. So that's kind of one of those interesting questions, is if this is a Saturday, is this even a bigger disaster? Is this something that we need to keep track of when it comes to whether the day that it's occurring? Because the damage that we saw at some of these campgrounds, we would have had more than just 3 fatalities, I think, if this had been a Saturday. So there's a ton of questions. I obviously would love to chat more, but it's just one of those things where when you dig deeper into that granularity of the locations that we serve, these things really do start to pop out. The biggest issue here is that we just don't have the time. And so we really do need that partnership in order to do that. So if there's any other questions throughout this call, I'll be happy to answer and provide more information.
Thank you, Nate. And Nate, really thanks for what you said about sort of not having that time to step back and to do the research as you're so engaged in the operations. And thank you for your willingness and eagerness to partner. I know that you've already had some great conversations with Kelsey. Nate, would you be willing to please put your email in the chat in case others are interested in following up with you, and maybe even putting in the chat to that specific geographic region, because I do know we have some researchers from Indiana, Ohio, so various surrounding regions that I think might be great potential partners if they have the time, space, and capacity. So thank you again, Nate. And Jonathan, I'm going to move over to you next. Thank you so much for responding to this call and your willingness to share a few words of what you've been observing over the years. So will you also briefly introduce yourself, let us know what NOAA office you're in, and share any insights or questions that you're really interested in. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk here, Lori. Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan Gooseman, morning coordination meteorologist at the Weather Service and State College, just a bit north and east of Nate there. So a little bit of a different angle. We've been doing a lot of work in our southeasternmost area of responsibility with the Amish folks in terms of vulnerable population. So in terms of just promoting outreach material, so specifically on tornadoes, lightning and flooding, we've also been doing a lot of work with them on. But just, and by choice, understanding that they don't have means to a lot of the technological assets that we do on a day-to-day basis. You know, how do we get them, particularly in this case, tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings? So we worked with our emergency managers out in Lancaster County to be able to set up essentially a phone system where they can be called on their black box telephones in the Amish community. So a lot of the families in that have these what they call black box telephones to set up and get either real-time calls, or you can leave messages on them. So that's kind of been one facet there. Fortunately, here in central Pennsylvania, we haven't had many long tracked or devastating tornadoes really at all since I've been here the past 4 years or so. But the other kind of aspect I wanted to bring up, I mentioned to Lori with this, some of the straight line type wind damage and downburst type winds, and the social science piece of that, and how we can message that and work with folks in the public. Because I feel like, and throughout most of my 15-year career at this point, I feel like a lot of the injuries, by and large, day to day with the severe thunderstorms are from downburst or straight line winds. We actually just recently this weekend had another injury in our eastern part of our area that was from a downburst happening there. So how do we get people to take severe thunderstorm warnings more seriously? I think everyone assumes that they get hit by wind damage, it's a tornado. And kind of in terms of the outreach, you tell them whether it's tornado related or downburst or straight line winds, it's still damage. It's impacted you and realized by you. So really, not much in terms of change there on your end. You're still dealing with the damage. But getting folks to understand and take severe thunderstorm warnings more seriously, with understanding there are more of them issued. So wireless emergency alerts, for example, pretty high threshold to have to be able to reach 80 miles an hour baseball-sized hail to have those set off people's phones. So that and the Amish piece is what I wanted to throw in on the vulnerable side. And then just getting people to my time in Eastern Kentucky. I know the Wilmington folks on here, the March 2nd, 2012 tornado event. So when I was in Eastern Kentucky, there were two longer track tornadoes that hit there. And just seeing the emotional scars on people when I was there, it would have been 8 years still at that point. They hear thunder, see lightning, and they're legitimately scared for their lives at that point. And then you get the reverse of that too, where you get folks that say they've lived through that event or that particular tornado. Why do we need to take this one more seriously or shelter? So that's some of the other aspects I just wanted to throw in here for discussion. Appreciate you having me on again.
Jonathan, thank you so much for that. And it's making me think about there may be researchers on this call who have data sets or instruments that relate to these different sort of hazard types, from straight line winds to tornadoes, severe thunderstorm warnings, et cetera. So there may be sort of existing data or instruments that the community could provide. And also, again, this opportunity to potentially partner. And thank you also for bringing in, really thinking about the religious dimension in this regard, thinking about the intersection of warnings, communications, alerts, et cetera, and how that happens in communities with different technological capacities. And so all wonderful. And same request of you. I see Nate put a really nice synopsis and also his email. Jonathan, if you would be willing to do something similar in case researchers on the call would like to reach out to you, if you're willing to continue the conversation and potentially again engage in some kind of partnership in the process of this research, that would be really incredible. So thank you again, Jonathan. And Kelsey, I see the inspiration behind this all. What would you like to say or share?
Yeah, I was curious, and maybe it's unfair to ask you this without you seeing a proposal, but do you think there's space for someone to write a proposal for the tornado ready call that includes multiple hazards to like get at some of the straight line wind stuff as well?
That is a great question. And if any of our NOAA colleagues have a strong opinion on this, please also come off the call to echo anything that Jen or I might say here. But we are very, very interested in cascading hazard, supporting research on cascading hazards, cumulative impacts across hazard types. And again, this call, it must have a tornado dimension for sure, given the focus of the call. But I think if there are questions, especially Kelsey, I know with your expertise in climate change and cumulative disaster impacts, that we would be very interested in such a call. And actually last week I was on a call with several responders who've been very engaged in Oklahoma after the tornadoes. And one of the points that they made is that it is the tornado, it is the wind, yes, but it's also the flooding that's coming with these severe storms. That's sort of a real double whammy to people's homes, apartments, public housing, communities, businesses, et cetera. And so I think, again, as long as there is that tornado dimension, but if there are cross-cutting concerns across hazards, we are very interested in proposals of that sort at the Natural Hazards Center. And again, NOAA colleagues, if you have a further comment, please do respond to Kelsey's great question about that. And then I think at this point, I'll just ask if there's anyone else on the call who has anything that you want to share with fellow researchers, practitioners, policymakers, others who are on this call about research you're interested in, research priorities, any concerns or questions of any sort that you have. There would be some time for that right now. And so please do raise hand or flip on your camera if you have anything you'd like to share. Oh, Chris. And Chris, I see you are also joining us from Nigeria. So first, you're going to have to tell us what time is it there, and then please let us know what you would like to share or ask. Hi, Chris. We can see you now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Very great presentation, and so glad to be here. I wanted to thank everyone and also share some recurring hazards that we have in Nigeria. The time is about 6:49, that's evening, PM in Nigeria right now, although I'm in Abuja, the capital city. It's not very prone to flood because it's in the central plateau of the country, Nigeria. So it's not really vulnerable in terms of, it's rocky, so it's not very vulnerable, but some areas are always having the same problem. Within Abuja, it's called Lokogoma. It's around the entry to the city. So there's this trade mall estate. It's always flooded every year on year, it always floods. And sometime. Yesterday, I just heard it flooded again, and people, like 2 people were missing, probably dead. And the Kogoma area is also the same thing. But areas around the middle central Nigeria, like the middle belt, then the south region, which is very due to rising temperature and ocean increase in water. So those places are always prone to flood. And I'm just trying to find out what are the best mechanism to measure hazard alerts and management in terms of warning systems alert when it comes to hazard and also risk, sort of a way. And also for an area that is always recurring with cycle of hazard every year, and it's an option which is very difficult for the country to deal with right now because of the sense of there's already an estate, people are living, the livelihoods of people, how they would have to displace if corrective measures have to be taken. In such a place where you have a situation whereby people are already living in the area, and probably before the construction, the channels were not taken care of, and it always causes hazard. What do you have to do whereby there's already occupation and then there's also recurring hazard? That's my contribution for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, for joining us, and thank you for those big questions that you've posed. And it's great to have you here and have you as a part of this community. And I think if Chris has put his email, or he didn't put his email, but he put a hello to everyone. And so Chris, if you too would drop your email in the chat in case there are others on this call who have an interest in following up related to some of these questions concerning recurring hazards, displacement, and other issues beyond flooding that you've addressed during your comments. I think that would be great. So thank you for that, and thanks for sharing your email. And I'll follow up directly after this virtual forum with some thoughts and some resources that we have here through the Natural Hazard Center. And I think it is worth noting, Chris, since I know you and Valani and perhaps others are joining us, one note about this special call that we're discussing during this particular forum is that research proposals must focus on tornadoes that happened in the US states, US territories, or tribal areas, recognized tribal areas. However, we do have other programs through the Natural Hazard Center, such as our longstanding Quick Response Research Award program, that can and do support internationally focused research. So I'll also send that to you in a link as a follow-up to this virtual forum. So thanks again, Chris. And we are coming close to the end. We have a few minutes remaining on this forum, so I will put another maybe last call out if anybody else on this call has anything that you want to share with fellow colleagues and students who are joining. Carson, it's great to see you out there, and I'm sure your ears were really perked up by what Jonathan and Nate both shared about emergency communications with your recent wonderful work around this topic. So tell us, what would you like to share or ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to share some ideas, I guess, if anybody are looking for ideas of what they might focus on. I've been working on a project with FEMA recently, trying to better understand sheltering behavior around tornadoes and hurricanes and sort of the human factors around sheltering, and doing a big literature review looking at all sorts of papers related to that. So this topic's super relevant for me right now. But one of the things that came out of the literature review was that the guidance around sheltering, like at interior of your home, people assume that works for all level of tornadoes. And so I think it'd be really interesting to see some research about perceptions of which protective actions are relevant for which level of tornado intensity, and are people assuming that sheltering in their home is going to work for all of those levels of tornadoes, or do we need to modify the guidance so people are aware that that's maybe not going to provide safety for those higher level of winds. So that was something I just thought was really relevant in the research that I've been reading, and would love to see some research on that if anybody has an interest in that and wants to pursue it. So, and I'm happy to share the literature review for anybody as well, because we have about 100 papers that are all related to both topics on hurricanes and tornadoes. So.
Wonderful. And Carson, given that I'm going to put you on the spot for another minute because I know you are so elbow deep in this literature, given the prioritization in this special call, focusing on schools, manufactured homes, institutionalized settings that are serving marginalized populations. And one of the things I know you found in the lit review is sort of a lack of social science research in general on tornado sheltering during the actual event. Is there anything in terms of the lit review that you're doing around that specific prioritization area that you might want to shout out to? Any gaps on schools, manufactured homes, et cetera, elder care homes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the manufactured homes piece has come up a lot. And yeah, this sort of the people living there maybe have a misperception sometimes that they'll be still safe in those spaces. So better understanding just what people's perceptions are who are living in mobile homes. I think also understanding what sort of incentives there can be around creating like community shelters in places where maybe it doesn't make sense to have individual ones for that group of people. So that's definitely super interesting. Another piece around schools that's been fascinating to look at is they're potentially providing a critical place to shelter, but then they also are serving this purpose as a school. And so the balance of having it be a shelter that maybe ends up getting used for a long time when kids are also hoping to go back to school, there's a really interesting tension there. So research on both of those things would be super fascinating, and that doesn't seem like there's a lot out there right now.
Great. And are you finding anything on sheltering for jails, prisons, other settings like that? Have you seen anything in the literature?
That didn't come up in my review at all. So I think that's definitely a gap as well.
Okay, well, the chats are rolling in. I see that several people are asking for this 100+ paper lit review that you've been working so hard on, and big shout out to the building science folks at FEMA who are engineers and architects who've really seen this need for closing the social science gap. And Carson, thanks for speaking up there in your willingness to share. And Lori said she would also be interested in sharing findings on anyone doing research regarding tornadoes on indigenous reserves. So Lori Pierce, we have 2 minutes left. If you don't mind, if I call on you, are you conducting research on this right now, or are you interested if somebody launches this that you'd like to partner or know more?
Yeah, thanks so much, Lori. We have done some research in Canada on First Nations and evacuating in tornadoes, and have come up with a number of findings, and I would be interested in sharing those findings, but also if anyone is doing some current research on tornadoes and with our Indigenous communities, we'd be really interested in having a discussion around that.
Outstanding. And also just thinking about different housing types in different regions and so forth. So Lori, thank you for bringing this into the conversation and for everything you do, and for, as always, building bridges across borders in beautiful ways. And so it is great to see you. And we have 1 minute left. And Carson, I see more questions are coming in for you, and that you've agreed to send out the bibliography and make sure and be in touch with Kim and others. And thanks for the thumbs up on this. And so, Justin, you're going to get our last 45 seconds, and then I'll wrap this up.
I'll be super brief. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about migrant populations that are maybe in fields doing those sorts of things. They're a marginalized, underrepresented population. I think that would be a great area. I don't know how well you could do that, but I think that'd be something that would be definitely of interest and is a very understudied group, I would say, in this area. Thank you.
Right, and great point about when there is no shelter and the storm is coming and people are completely exposed. What does that mean? So Justin beautifully said to everybody on the call, please know that the wonderful Jeffrey Gunderson at the Natural Hazard Center will be posting the video recording, the chat from this virtual forum, and of course the slides. And Carson, I'm going to add you, I had some resources at the end of the slides that we're not going to cover right now, but we will post, and I will make sure and add you and your email to the slides. And again, we will put the chat out there too. So Jonathan, Nate, Lori, Chris, others, Kelsey, who spoke up and were looking for potential collaborations that we can follow up. And so with that, thank you so much, everyone, for your time, effort, care, willingness to communicate, coordinate, and collaborate. We are so thankful for all of you and for the work that you do, and you give us hope every single day. So with that, please remember to take care of yourself and others, and we will hopefully see you soon online or in person at the Natural Hazards Workshop. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.